Hi, my name's Ty Clement, and I'm standing here by the Bitterroot River, just outside of Missoula, Montana. And I'm standing here with a whiteboard here, and I'm going to draw you a picture. And this is about relationships, any kind of relationship at all, between any two people or even animals or any kind of relationship. Takes 2 points to make a line. That's a simple math concept. A relationship takes two people, okay? So this is based on the idea that there's a bipolar or two-sided nature to relationship. This is my pen. I haven't used it yet. It's brand new. It says Sharpie king size. See how it works. Okay, 2 points, makes a line. We're going to draw a snake. I'm going to tell you the story of the snake as a relationship model. I'm not always a great artist. I like to paint better than I like to draw. This here is a snake. He represents relationships. So, 2 points makes a line. Okay, relationship takes two people. And a relationship has a life, a development, a process, a history, a future. So that's the snake, okay? Us and them. Two parts are, I guess we call the protagonist and the antagonist. We're talking about two people in a relationship, or two animals, or a person and an animal, or two trees, or the sun and the earth. Any kind of relationship. All that I'm speaking of here applies to all relationship. Universal principle. Okay, so the snake. The snake has a head, and then we're going to imagine the head as the center of great passion, ideas, the brain, the consciousness. So that's a special end of things. The tail is a bit dull. It follows the head. It comes later. And the tail doesn't have as much charisma as the eye and the head. Typically, in relationships, the thing we are most seeking is love, connection, and there's a lot of versions of that. It depends on who the two people are, okay? If it's the universe and planets, it's hard for us to describe what the meaning of that is, but there's certainly relationships between things, and we observe those, and that's the fun of science, is observing what the universe is doing. In our lives with each other, we observe a lot in our relationships with people and with our animals, or our homes, or our cars, or the sports equipment that we use, or our tools as artists. So all these relationships have a purpose, and then there's like this other end that's like the kind of pragmatic, boring, practical steps to start the process, okay? So we're going to call this end beginning, because the snake tail represents where you start if you want to start carefully. So we're going to call this a careful beginning. Wow. Just had a nice eagle fly by there. Don't know if you caught it, but I caught it. All right, so anyways, beginning. We want to start at the careful beginning. If we start with the beginning being the head, which means the exciting reason we want to be connecting with this person, meaning this is the whole goal. We'll call that the eventual goal. We have a careful beginning, and we have an eventual goal and purpose of having a win-win or symbiotic outcome for us and them, which of course on the individual level is me and you. Okay, So we have two people. We want to be in it to win it. So we want to start at the right end. Let's discuss starting at the wrong end. We have all probably started at the wrong end in some pursuits of relationships in our life. Let's look at it. Starting at the wrong end means starting with the exciting beginning. The beginning we think looks like exactly what we want. It's all consuming. We're like, I want that. Okay, well, think of it like a kid in the toy store. You go to the toy store, you see this new bike you didn't know existed. Once you've seen it, you want it because you see yourself riding it. You connect with it. You want that. Now, obviously, most kids know not to go steal the bike, okay? But a silly example of the kind of phenomenon I'm talking about is start at the head. You might be like, well, I can probably just ride this bike around the back of the store and ride down the alley and take this home now. Okay, most kids know better than that. But, you know, we've done something like that a little less obvious and maybe a little less naughty, okay, in our lifetime. We thought maybe we could get away with cutting some corner, right? Okay, now let's go to more normal examples in our adult relationship world, okay? We're talking about, I have not had sex for 3 years. I had a horrible breakup after, you know, my third try at long-term marriage or commitment. I've given up on love altogether. I'm at midlife. What do I do? Yeah, I'd like a relationship, but I know what it's like to start at the head of the snake because I did that every other time. I married a rich guy, or I, you know, married the most handsome dude at the bar, or I don't care which reality you're in. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. Generically and fundamentally, the head of the snake is where you start with the thing you're looking for, which is probably, if you're talking about connection and adult relationships, it's probably some physical touch, okay? Love and touch are synonymous. We as beings connect through touch. Touch is innocent and pure, and it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be starting at the snake's tail. Touch that starts at the head has too much charge going on. Why is that happening that quick? Only because of some negative priority. And I say negative in the sense that it's so important that it causes people, well, it's so important to whoever's in charge of the power regime that they're wanting to start at the head instead of the tail, and they all know, if they have any brains, that that's going to lead to a negative outcome, like unwanted pregnancy, venereal diseases getting passed, just a level of physical awareness. Like if we started by getting naked together, where do we go from there in terms of seeking closeness and intimacy? You see, there's no climb because there's no mountain you're climbing. You have nothing left. You've started with the head. Going backwards now will always feel like coming down off a pleasurable substance or something. The more you go, the more it's like, wait, how can I get back to that part where we just took the substance, okay? We're talking about a bad situation. We're saying it's starting out with the most fun and it's going to lead to the least fun for the rest of the ride. Does this sound familiar to any of you? Have any of you had that experience in relationships where you wondered why it seemed to be draining you of your very life every year a little more? Don't do that. Okay. We've all done it somewhere with a friendship. You know, let's go back to grade school. Okay? How many of us thought we had a friend because someone paid us a nice compliment a couple times and clearly wanted to get to know us better? But then as soon as they got to know us, they realized that no, we didn't meet their criteria for popular. You know, if we think of five-finger assessment, it's like we might have had a certain thing they wanted, like a sense of humor or good looks or the right jeans, the right sneakers, but maybe we didn't have the right backpack for that year. And in middle school, for example, we know that can count. So, in America at least. So, here we go. You think you're in, and then all of a sudden, the same person seems to be the one getting the person you already were friends with to start making fun of you. All of a sudden, the person you thought was a new friend is now taking away the friend you thought you already had. Now there's two friends lost. You feel hurt and betrayed. This hurts. Okay, this is what happens when we choose relationships ourselves based on the same greedy criteria as that person who is judging us, meaning, were we cool enough? Were we rich enough? Did we have the right things? If we start with those kind of like external, head-focused things, we start at the wrong end of the snake in relationships. And again, we'll get dumped for the same criteria, exclusionary criteria, that we have applied to others, okay? So we want to open up things from a different direction. So we start with a different approach. This is called the golden way, okay? We start at the right end with the careful beginning. This is called the tail. I want to tell you a little tale, okay? One time when I was a kid in college, I had to study I had a book to read. It was kind of a dull book. I thought, if I sit in my dorm room alone, this will be boring to read. So I said, I'll go out on the picnic table and see what's happening in the river of life with humanity, and I'll study there like a part of the human race. So I sat down, and within 5 minutes, a Chinese man, about 45 years old, walked up to me and asked me if I would teach him to drive, and I did. And he and I are still friends a long time later, but at that time as a student, he became a friend for about 6 months on a level of spending time together, talking about our past and histories, and learning a lot about Chinese culture and American culture together. So this was a relationship where I started out being out in a park with my book, knowing I was open to humanity. I wanted connection. I wasn't looking for anything cheap, nothing dirty, just I want to be out in the world. Where's my humanity? Where's my human tribe around me? I was a college student alone in Montana, far from my family and anyone I knew. So this Chinese man, very nice guy, he had a car but didn't know how to drive it yet. He and I connected, started a friendship, okay? We spent a lot of time getting to know each other for about 6 months, then we went our separate ways a little bit because I was a college student shifting through different friends, and he actually went on to Alaska to earn a bunch of money. He came back and started a Chinese restaurant. He and I reconnected in adulthood, more in my early middle-aged years, and at that time we began a friendship that has continued to this day, where the more we get to know about each other, the more we understand why we're connected and who we really are in the bigger sense, in terms of our different personalities and what we can teach each other through our diversity and our commonness, and the combination of those two things. So that means we approach that common understanding of like that diversity that we can understand, that's sort of like a heart shape, that me and you as something positive. We're approaching that in the right direction, this friend and I, okay? And because of that, we're experiencing the benefits of the snake. My wife and I too, we have a really special marriage for 20 years. And what's happened is we realized that some of the ways we met in the beginning, like me introducing her to fireflies in Michigan, she had grown up near Disneyland and thought they were make-believe fairy tale things or something. But fireflies are real if you're from Michigan or New England, where I'm from. So in any case, I introduced her to that way before I ever had any notion I was going to be with this wonderful woman and her wonderful child who I had just met. But in any case, our marriage eventually, 20 years later, is like way down the road and getting a little thicker and more meaningful and depthful every year. And that's because we're working in the right direction. And some of the things we've realized in 20 years, we could only know from 20 years of going in the right direction, see? But if we'd been going the wrong direction all along, we would have missed out on all this terrain that is the richest stuff. Now, back in the day where there were black and white movies in America of romantic situations that were very erotic to me personally, at least when I watched them, 30, 40 years later. Today's movies, and I'm saying since I was a kid in the 80s, today's movies, like the last 40 years of movies, these are boring to me. There's ugly bodies having ugly, explicit, touch scenes that look unnatural and gross and kind of ruin sex for me if I think about those images. All that stuff's gross to me. Those old movies really had it right on. There's some really subtle stuff that is really enlightening to the heart and to the spirit in terms of what love's really about and what sharing love can be like on a more subtle level, a beauty level, a divine level, a natural level that includes figuring out how to get this heart going by starting with a careful beginning in relationships and ending up with a beautiful head. And this is where, the idea of peace comes in. You have to have both people equally in control, equally in discussion and dialogue and fluidity of the dialectical perspective of two people, two parts that makes the line. That's called the peace sign. You have both perspectives. If you eliminate either perspective, you're only getting one side of the coin. This is the my way or highway perspective. You don't want that. It doesn't work. This is where we want to have our snake head before we start at the tail. This is the way of peace. This is the slow path, the careful path. Careful beginning leads to getting your eventual goal. And it is a win-win. And this is the story of the snake as we finish up the year of the snake, according to the Chinese calendar, which it's just about to be the Chinese New Year, so we're finishing up the year of the snake. So, hey, goodbye, year of the snake. You've been awesome to me personally. I appreciate you and universe. You're great. Thanks for letting us learn about this snake. And may everyone figure out how to do relationships this way together. And even if you started a relationship at the head, figure out how you can cut your losses and turn that head into the new tail. Like when you cut worms in half, they can still grow again. It's amazing. Life's like that. So if you think you started at the wrong end in your current relationship, don't throw that person away. Don't throw yourself away or your children away. Just figure out how can we have that start with a new tale, new beginning, new careful beginning. Let's think of new goals we want together as two people, and let's include both people's power and perspective and work. Bring all that together as a synergy into creating a new careful beginning towards that new goal that you two want to claim, okay? So do this. Let's all do it together. If every person did that, the whole hand of all the people, all the fingers on the hand of humanity, would be experiencing what it's like to be one system of something higher, something lower, something deeper, something more external, something more fundamental in every sense, okay? We would be knowing what it was to be reality interacting with itself, being ourself, being that greater whole, the fingers on the hand, okay? Let's do it. Peace.